Okay, on behalf of the School Innovation and Turnaround Committee, I'd like to call this committee meeting to order. We need a roll call, I believe.
Ms. Beebe?
Present.
Ms. Beebe is present. Mr. Bennett?
Here.
Mr. Bennett is present. Ms. Bofi?
Here.
Ms. Bofi is present. Ms. Bradford?
Here.
Ms. Bradford is present. Ms. Dastuke?
Here.
Ms. Dastuke is present. Mr. Garvey?
Here.
Mr. Garvey is present. Mr. Gio?
Present.
Mr. Gio is present. Ms. Hill?
Present.
Ms. Hill is present. Mr. Lee?
Here.
Mr. Lee is present. Ms. Orange Jones? Ms. Orange Jones is absent. Mr. Romer?
Here.
Mr. Romer is present.
Okay, we have a quorum. Let's go to the first item.
First item is item 2.1 on page 1, consideration of a report on types 2, 4, and 5 charter contracts and request for amendments. The department recommendation is to approve.
Okay, I think it might be good to break these up into separate items. Can I get a motion to that effect? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, let's take the first one.
The first item is Delhi Charter School, and that's on page 4, operated by Delhi Charter to increase the school's enrollment from 550 to 800, and the department recommendation is to approve.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Gill. I was going to make a motion that BESE approves as recommended by the Department of Education.
Mr. Gio makes the motion. We have a second.
Second.
Mr. Lee, seconds. Do we have any discussion?
I'd like to just make a comment, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Superintendent?
Thank you. As you know, there are criteria that dictate BESE's approval of these items, and we have proposed approval of 4 items, and I'm happy to detail the facts behind why in each case. But in each case, these schools meet the criteria for approval, and on that basis, we recommend every one of them be approved. I'm happy to walk through the facts on each one. I'm happy to start with this one at Delhi. I know we probably have cards on some of these as well, but I do want to emphasize at the start that all of these, we believe, meet BESE criteria for approval of the expansion.
Can I get a little bit of clarity on why we're breaking them apart?
Well, I know that there are questions on some, and I don't think there are questions on all of them. So I thought we could dispense with the ones that don't have questions. And
so look, if
my preference would have been for a motion to approve all of them and then take the questions. But I guess Chaz Romer is the one that made a motion to break them apart.
No, that was the chairman, but I'm not sure about
it. It doesn't matter either way, but it looks like it would flow smoother for a motion concerning the recommendation from the department.
Okay, well, do we have any further questions about Delhi?
Is this in your district, Mr. Gio?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Chaz, you just want to
Okay, hearing none, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion carries. Next school.
The next school is Louisiana Connections Academy, operated by Friends of Louisiana Connections Academy, to increase the school's enrollment. The department recommendation is to increase its enrollment from 750 to 1,000 for the 2012-2013 school year. And the department further recommends that future expansion is conditional upon satisfactory academic, organizational, and financial performance as determined by the LDE. Department recommendation is to approve.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms.
I'd like to
Destin?
make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Page 8.
I'll second.
Mr. Romer seconds. Do we have any questions? Ms. Beebe?
Thank you, Mr. Garvey. Mr. White, first of all, I'd like to make a comment, and I hope that I'm in order. We did receive this paperwork yesterday. I received it, in fact, last night. The department did notify me that it was sent. But the reason I'm speaking to this is the comment was made by Superintendent White based on the last discussion regarding the MFP resolution, that we should be aware and we should understand this information prior to the meetings. I want to point out that I'm very disappointed that we didn't get this in a timely manner, but I will then proceed to speak to my concern. As it relates to the Louisiana Connections Academy, you did indicate, Mr. White, that this meets the criteria, and according to policy, there are 3 criteria. And so I need to ask the question, did they meet the C or above? Did they meet the performance standards? As I understand, this is a new virtual charter school, so do we have enough data to recommend proceeding, moving forward, for you to recommend moving forward to accept this proposal?
Just to be clear, what Ms. Beebe is referencing is BESE regulations. And the BESE regulations say the following, that a expansion shall be approved if there is 1, no violation of legal or contractual standards. We've seen no violations. 2, is not in dialogue or kind of corrective action with the department, and this school is not in dialogue. 3, meets one of the following performance standards. A score of a C or higher. Well, there is not yet SPS, so you're right, there is not that one, but remember, it is one of the following. Not allowing the expansion into new grades or acceptance of greater numbers of students would result in students attending a lower performing school. And we do know that because across the state we have a very large number, hundreds in fact, of schools that by our own criteria are D's and F's, that almost by definition, if students are not allowed to choose this school, they will be attending schools that are low performing. And let me tell you why. This year, 4,200 students applied to this school, but we capped its enrollment at 1/7 of that. We're not actually proposing to expand it greatly, but that means that there are literally 3,500 families that did not get into this school because we capped its number at a, frankly, fairly arbitrary number. Now, we're not suggesting significant expansion, but we're suggesting expansion because almost by definition, it meets this criteria of item B, which is that students would have to go to a lower performing school if we didn't expand it.
I would like to respond to that, but this is a virtual charter, and we cannot assume that these students will be asked to attend failing schools. So I think this is an assumption that is being made, and so I would want to see, I think we need to be responsible in our decision making, and I don't want to allow expansions until we get some concrete data to confirm that in fact this is success.
Ms. Beebe, with respect, I don't know how much more concrete I can be. 4,200 parents applied. We turned down 3,500 of them. And these are parents, many of whom are coming from districts, entire districts that are D districts. And we know we have districts, we have several districts where 50% of the kids are not performing on grade level. Those districts are D districts. And we have students applying to this school. We're turning away those students. And thus, by definition, we believe it meets this criteria of saying that they otherwise would attend a school that is not academically successful.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Bradford?
Superintendent, it seems to me that through applications, that might be a question that we want to include for this so that we could document and have data to talk about. And so I make that recommendation to you that if there's an easy way to do that, that we ought to try to track that.
Thank you. And so for our OPO staff, if we could make sure to provide that evidence of district enrollment or zone enrollment, that'd be helpful.
Ms. Bogan?
I have some questions about it. One is this our only virtual charter school?
No, we have 2 virtual charter schools. And I do want to say that the staff are required to report to a location. We can observe instruction in the same way we can in any other school and have gone to the school to observe the instruction. And we feel very, very good about, as we do in other charter schools, did a review, feel very good about what we saw.
I am definitely a fan of providing more options to kids. I can understand how this would be an alternative to some kids and meet some important needs. I have some questions, and it's more about the overall picture of how this is going on. One is, how are we communicating to parents the fact that their students are going to have to, your students are going to have to do things differently in order to fit in this type of program? A problem was brought to me by a constituent about people being released from a program. And now that I understand that there are more than one virtual charter schools, I can't say that it's this program in particular because I haven't seen that in writing. But just a couple of things that I would like to put out there is, one, making sure that that we're not having that problem, so that there's great communication from the beginning, so that parents and students know what's expected of them to be able to succeed in a program like this. And then, two, the follow-up, so that we have the communication to the districts. I know that this is really going to impact districts when their students start attending these schools, because we're going to, based on our MFP, the money's going to follow the child, so that districts can verify the child's attendance. What I understand is that they get a number, but they don't have a name to know which ones of their students are actually choosing this option.
Fair point, and both fair points, and very much appreciated. Fair also to note that these schools are subject to the same regulation or laws regarding expulsion, for example, as other schools, but absolutely understand about the vigilance.
Okay.
Ms. Bradford?
Mr. Chair, I have also heard some communication issues, and so I don't know if parent orientation is in place, but perhaps that would be the first step to start the parent education process, is that before their student begins, they go through some type of orientation where they do have the needs and issues addressed that Bob presented.
Thank you.
A comment.
Ms. Hill?
Yes. As far as those 3,500 students that are trying to be enrolled into the virtual school, would they be eligible for the scholarship program under the MFP funding?
I don't think we have a student-by-student breakdown right here with us. We're happy to get you the information as to where the applicants reside, and thus if they're likely eligible for the scholarship program.
Okay, because if they are, then they'll be able to, if they're in a failing school, then they'll be able to attend.
Could you speak into the mic so I
Okay,
can hear you?
if they are, they will be available to attend the scholarship program. So the statement I'm trying to make is that those 35 students that are trying to enter into the virtual school, if we consider to delay this until we get more concrete, because I understand what you're saying as far as these students that are in failing schools, that they should have an option to attend this virtual school. But we don't know their progress. We don't know if they're going to succeed, if they're going to have the standards to continue to go on. So would those students be eligible to accept those the scholarship program and enter to the scholarship program into the following year?
Well, they may be if there were a school nearby. I guess I would say there are two things. Number one, I'm in rural communities all the time where people say your scholarship program doesn't have a huge impact on me because I have to drive 50 miles to the nearest public school or private school. So people say, well, what does choice mean for me in my rural community? And this is an option in that case. And second, I guess it is our sense that taking any option off the table, provided it has demonstrated quality, is not where we want to be, whether it's private, charter, traditional in other district, et cetera. And so these two things could complement each other as well. But we're happy to provide information as to the residential location of where the applicants are from.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Ms.
Yeah,
Dasty?
I think it's a different type of choice. I mean, the virtual schools attract certain families, certain types of children who, are, for any number of reasons, are not thriving in the traditional schools. Whereas the scholarship program, I think, is another choice, another option. But I don't think we can assume that those families would be as satisfied with the scholarship program as they may be with the virtual school. So it's not an equal trade-off, in my opinion.
Just one more question.
Ms. Bradford?
I think we really have to be sure that we have found a way to be sure that the accountability process for this online school is in keeping with our standards for every other type of school. It's a different animal, so it may look differently, but I think we need to have one that we can put on a sheet of paper and hand out, so we all understand what we're looking for a quality online program.
Mr. Romer?
Those are all good comments. I think the policies that we have, as we actually have them now, satisfy those questions, and we ought to make sure board members are given that information so they get comfortable with it. But I would just say, in our conversation about whether to let a school expand or not, the idea that 4,200 parents chose this as an option that is a powerful number. I mean, that's more kids than participate in the scholarship program in New Orleans right now. And we have areas in this state where they have no option. We have students who aren't comfortable at the school they're assigned to because of bullying or other things. There are lots of reasons why virtual education could be important for this state, and one that I think we should support. You know, I could easily argue that we should expand it greater than we're expanding it now. We're in fact still going to be leaving 3,000 parents without this as their option. I think restraint is probably called for. We need to make sure they don't grow so quickly that they can't handle the capacity. But understand that this could be a very powerful instrument for this state if done properly. And there is no reason a child in this state should not have access to a high-quality school. I don't care where they live. And virtual schools are going to be one of the tools that we use to provide that. So I would recommend the approval of this item and take into account and ask the superintendent to certainly consider all the comments made by more board members to make sure they're satisfied that we're properly providing proper oversight and we're making sure there's a high quality. So,
one final comment.
Ms. Hill?
I guess this would be for Superintendent White. How are these students receiving the Title I funding if they're going to be through the virtual schools, as far as those students that will come from failing schools?
You mean, are these schools receiving Title I funds?
Correct.
Yeah, these schools receive funds as the same as any other school. I'm happy to have information sent to you as to how they provide specific services across the spectrum, but they receive the same dollars that any other school did. They have the same accountability that any other school does. And we have a wide variety of the ways that children are being educated in this state, all the way from homeschoolers all the way through traditional schools, and this is a small piece of that continuum. In terms of the spectrum of what we're talking about today, we're talking about 3 kids per district that we're talking about, a very, very small number across the state who are actually engaged in this right now.
Okay.
Ms. Beebe?
Okay. As it relates to the choice and failing, and the choice given to parents of those students in failing schools, I certainly would advocate that there not be compelled to attend failing schools. But at the same time, the research out there regarding the effectiveness of charter schools, and I would certainly, Superintendent White, you do also represent traditional public schools, so I hope that you're having conversations with superintendents, for example, in St. Martin Parish. We will, in August, have a virtual charter. A virtual school, but it's implemented through our MSP allocation. So I would like to see us to go in line with that kind of thought, to offer some solutions to our traditional public schools and to our superintendents, because we face the same concerns. And but once again, I do have reservations, and I'm excited that in St. Martin Parish we are at least thinking outside the box and we're moving in this direction. But I still have reservations as to whether or not it's going to be successful. I think there is a chance of it being more effective with the monitoring of our superintendents and central staff in our local school systems. So I just don't feel that we need to. My comments today, based on this particular topic, is that I don't want us to move too fast and open the floodgates where you have all of these opportunities offered, but we want to make sure that there are opportunities to succeed and there are effective programs in place.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question I'm trying to get some clarification on. And I guess let me take this point in time to call Parker Baxter and recognize him and ask him to come to the table, more so just so we can meet him. He's the new person in charge of these types of issues. I think he comes from Colorado and moved to Louisiana. I don't know if that was to get warm or for other reasons, but
altitude sickness.
we welcome you to Louisiana. And I don't know that my question really is for you, but in the original recommendation, there's some language saying that this school was looking to increase to 1,000 students and then to 1,500. But in the revised recommendation, only 1,000 is mentioned. But then it goes on to say that future expansions would be conditioned upon satisfactory academic, organizational, and other issues as determined by LDE. And my question is, which are we approving? Are we approving 1,000 or are we approving more than 1,000?
We're approving 1,000, but we will have academic information next year soon. And so any future decision will be based on academic outcome information. When BESE approved this original number, there was not an understanding, of course, that 4,200 people would apply afterward. And so I think we're saying let's give a small approval for expansion now. Then in future expansions, we'll be able to look at academic information.
And the future expansions would come back to BESE?
Correct.
Okay, great. Okay, we have two speakers that would like to speak to this issue. The first one is Mr. Wayne Free from Louisiana Association of Educators.
Wayne Free, Louisiana Association of Educators. Am I on? All right. I've given you a paper that I produced about a year ago that looks at a number of things in the virtual charter schools. It outlines 4 things. I'll hit them very quickly and move on. How effective are virtual schools? The research is very questionable as whether or not they're performing well. How much should they cost? You will see a printout of what connections Academy can be purchased for in the free market. We are currently paying a little over $3,000 to buy it for in the free market. You'll also see some other things there that have interest. Several articles have occurred since this was produced a little over a year ago. You'll see a listing to those. I'm glad you have Colorado here because Colorado is one of the major studies that showed that not only were the schools not doing well, they were essentially participating in fraud. They were taking students. Many of those students left, went back to the school district. They kept them on their rolls until they got the money, and then refused to return any of the money. That's not unusual, but it's true. We also found that the performance was very low, and a number of other things happened as well. I certainly hope that the individual you have brought from Colorado has experience in that and is able to speak to that and deal with that effectively, because it's much more than just performance. It's also how many students are remaining in the system, how they're remaining in the system, and a number of other things as well. I've listed a number of the recent articles that have come out recently. Florida, New York, Pennsylvania, Colorado, California, Wisconsin. I could go on and on. In December, a lawsuit was filed against K-12 by one of the shareholders, based upon the fact that the president of the company had lied to them, telling that the performance in a number of schools were excellent when it turned out that they were not excellent. Mississippi last week removed the virtual charters from the program. They've been operating there since Katrina. They spoke very clearly that the scores were very low. Parents were not in favor of it. They referred to them. Let's see if I've got this correct. We cannot afford to let someone whose parents with such a history, they are the worst of the worst. They were speaking specifically about K-12 at the time. Also last week, a couple of other school districts came up with information. Milwaukee closing their schools. And perhaps the best came out last week from the California Charter School Association. They released their report evaluating charter schools in the state, the Charter School Association. They showed that 14% of their charter schools were in the top 10% of the state. 12% of the charter schools were in the bottom 10% of the state. They went on to say that those 12% were specifically primarily made up of virtual charters. I don't always trust what I read in papers or reports, so I try to do some basic research. Unfortunately, I was doing it for the reports in New York that had no connection whatsoever to the New York Times. There are other areas focusing on the innovation schools in New York and their views of virtual charters and how inefficient they were. And I believe Mr. White had operated and started that program at that particular time. Now, it's one thing to say you've got 4,000 people wanting jobs, wanting places to put their kids. It's a very different thing to say that they don't know what's really wrong because the used car salesman out there is trying to pull them into a program so they can make money without educating kids.
Can I respond?
Mr. Romer?
You know, what's interesting about charter schools is each of them are individual. You're going to have some that don't perform well, some that do. Just because you put charter on the front door doesn't mean it's going to be successful. Doesn't mean it's going to be unsuccessful. Just because you put virtual on the front door doesn't mean it's successful or unsuccessful. I'll speak as a parent of a child who's participated in virtual education. As a 5th grader who got high school credit in Spanish 1 this year, working through the Louisiana Virtual School in 5th grade. So the idea of virtual education can be a very, very valuable tool. One that I think we're showing proper restraint on how quickly we've expanded in this state, but one that we should continue to explore and make sure we get high quality. We live in a state with a vast array of challenges. And urban and rural areas have different challenges. We live in a state where kids can't get access to physics teachers, kids can't get access to calculus teachers, kids can't get access to foreign language. Now, I would say that one of the things that we're going to do in this state is make sure we have high-quality virtual schools. And I think Mr. Free would support that idea.
Absolutely. If I may, I left out 4 things, very specific, and I'll get to them right away because I believe he's exactly right, that we do need various kinds of programs, including protecting charter schools. I don't have any problem with that, but including protecting virtual charters. So I would make 4 recommendations to you, very specific. The first one, delay decision. The second one, both Doug Whittinghill and I, for at least a year, have told the state superintendent of this state, current and previous, that we would be happy to serve on a committee to develop and look very effectively at the performance of virtual charters, and that you need to pull in the VHS people, because they're doing an excellent job in virtual schools, and a wide range of other folks to be involved in that evaluation to see how they do it. Third, we should look very seriously at blended programs like the one that they're looking at in St. Martin and other places, because all of the research indicates they are very much better than what we're talking about for charters. And number 4, and this is critical, BESE needs to appoint integrated committees to be involved in looking at all the charter schools that are going on so that we quit getting these reports from all over the place where everybody disagrees with what they do. Pull in all of those schools, get them involved in effective evaluation. Get us all on the same page. Identify good things and move on. And I've said that so many times. But what we do for the department is we spend our 3 years, find a job somewhere else, and move rather than do what has to be done for the state.
Mr. Chairman.
I wasn't
Thank
finished, but I wanted to let Mr. Free go ahead because I like him so much.
Mr. Romer?
I don't find delay to be a very persuasive argument. I mean, we have a state that is 230. You heard it ad nauseum. 235,000 kids below grade level, kids without access. We're not recommending here some massive expansion of a program that's going to have no oversight. We're asking about minimal expansion of a school that has tremendous demand that apparently many parents in this state want to choose and try. Now, will we continue to have oversight over the school? Absolutely, as we do every other charter school. So I would move that I'd call the question and let's move on.
Mr. Lee?
Appreciate, Mr. Romer, you trying to stop discussion after you made all your comments. This, for the sake of the new members, this topic did get lots of discussion. And it's controversial. It just is. It's different. It's new. I personally support virtual schools because of choice. That's what it is. It's a choice. And I think parents deserve that choice. I do have some concerns with it, did have when it was approved, but a majority of the board approved it the way it is. It's a very strong, I went to some of their recruiting meetings, and it's a strong recruiting tool to say, we're going to give you a laptop computer, absolutely free, won't cost you a thing. Just all you do is sign up for the virtual school and you get a computer. The other thing, now I don't particularly have a problem with that. What I did have some concern with, it's my understanding with the discussion when we were approving it, that nationally the average is about 60% of the average cost to educate a child that they are paid, because they don't have building costs, they don't have operation costs, they don't have all the costs that local school systems have. But the virtual schools here, the two that were approved at 90%. And to me, that's what probably should have been given more consideration. Thank you.
Mr. Gordon.
Well, let me hear from another speaker that would like to speak to this item, Ms. Rebecca Ellis.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Rebecca Ellis, and I'm a parent of 2 children in St. Tammany Parish. And Mr. Romer got up and walked away, but I wanted to tell him that I appreciated his comment about students having access and choices to education, but I do have some concern in just, I've been really keeping up with the education policy that's going forward in our state, and I just have some concern about whether or not I will have the same choices for my son who has autism as opposed to same choices for my son who does not have a disability. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention and thank you for your comment about all students, but I want to make sure that I as a parent have the same choice for both of my boys.
May I make a comment real quick? Just a minute?
Yes, Mr. Romer.
We did start a scholarship program specifically to serve autistic kids, to give them a choice of taking their dollars as opposed to find them 2 private providers that can provide high quality autism. So I do hear exactly what you're saying, and we do need to make sure that you have access for both of your children, and we'll make sure we keep doing that, hopefully.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, let's take one more, Bessie. Ms. Bophy.
So when we're talking about the choice for your children, and so would this virtual, like an online charter school, be appropriate for a child with autism?
It could be very appropriate for a child with autism. I actually have a colleague of mine. Her son is older. At this point, I wouldn't think it would be appropriate for my 7-year-old child, but her son is older, and he's actually benefiting greatly from the program. So I think it could be a viable option for a student with autism with the right support in place.
Okay.
Now, is your concern that he would not be accepted into a program like this one?
About my child in particular?
Well, in general. Right, I understand he's too young for it to be appropriate at this point. Is your concern today that he wouldn't be accepted into this kind of program?
I mean, it's my understanding that the admissions policy would not be discriminatory against him based on his disability. I don't know that he's actually too young for the program. I just, at this point in time, I don't believe that it would be the right move for him, given all things considered.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, let's hear from Ms. Beebe and let's wrap it up.
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Garvey. It is evident that virtual does offer choice, and once again, I will relate to my school district the fact that it is going to provide a virtual learning program, but there is a specific process in place, and we are sure that there will be monitoring and accountability. So I think Mr. Free made some great comments. At this time, I'd like to offer a substitute motion to delay the expansion of this program, and his recommendation that we appoint a committee to further explore virtual learning and see if we can model after the school systems and traditional public schools where virtual learning is in place or will be in place.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? With no second, the motion fails. So we go back to the original motion. Do we have any objections to the original motion? Hearing none, the original motion carries. Next item.
The next item is item C on page 14. The Lycée Français School is requesting to accelerate its growth and enroll students in second grade in 2012-2013, and the department recommendation is to approve.
I move for approval.
Motion, Mr. Estuke, second, Ms. Bradford.
If I could just comment, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. White?
I just want to put this in perspective, that this is one class of second graders in one school, and parents would have the right to choose as to whether or not to enroll their students in this school, in this second grade class. If no one chooses to enroll, then they won't have an additional second grade class. If they do, then we're just saying that they could.
And Mr. Chairman, may I speak to a motion? As I understand it, and it's been confirmed by the department, that the school will be required to have an open application period for a month, and that would allow anyone who has not previously already applied. The school's indicated that there have been 32 or 33 unsolicited applications for second grade, so there's clearly some demand for this. But I guess I feel good about the decision that this will be an open enrollment for a sufficient amount of time, and if the applications exceed the 25 seat cap that is being proposed today, then there would be a lottery, and that all children would have an equal opportunity to attend the school. So based on that, based on those facts, and I encourage support of this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Estuke. Do we have any other comments? We have a speaker on this item, Ms. Jean, is it Montez? Mr. Jean Montez? Dr. Jean. There you go.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Dr. Jean Montes, and I appreciate the work that you do. I am a board member.
Excuse me for a second. I don't think your microphone is turned on, is it?
Okay, I guess it works now.
Thank you.
Board member of the Lycée Français de la Nouvelle-Orléans. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you again for the work that you're putting on behalf of the young people of this wonderful state that we all are grateful to be part of. I am a board member of the Lycée Français, and the work that we are doing have made an amazing impact on the community, and I would like to thank you very much for allowing us to do that, to serve the community. We have had a number of applicants, and we would like to have the opportunity to explore adding the second grade, and we want to thank you very much for giving us that opportunity, and we would like to also invite you to come and see the impact that you are making in this community that is thirsty for quality education in a charter school, and we are committed to this from K to 12, which is the first school in the United States, that is first charter school in the United States that is free and open from K to 12, and it's a first. So I want to thank you very much for allowing us to do that.
Hey, could you stay for a second?
I have a
Do we have any,
question.
Ms. Estuke?
Yes.
Well, would you talk a little bit about what structures you have in place to support students who are not coming with a second language background, with a French background,
it's a very
either
good,
educationally or have been
very good question.
language ability?
What I want to say is we have, once the application period is over, we're going to have to open it again. We already have, more students than we're allowed to. So we would love to recommend that you allow us to open as many that we can, or given that the number of students that we receive that would not have the French background will be immediately put into a process during the summer with tutoring. And it's going to be a free program that we already have people in place to take care of it. And we're looking forward to working with them to get them up to date, to be ready to go into the program in second grade. And it's not a first. There are several families in New Orleans that have opted to bring their kids into second grade at other schools, immersion schools that are doing even more better than students that have started in first grade. With French. So we are confident and committed.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Ms. Beebe?
Yes, I'd just like to comment that I am an advocate of the French immersion program.
Thank you.
I have a grandson who is enrolled in the immersion program. And perhaps it was addressed and I might have been tuned out, but initially there was a recommendation to defer, and I do recall at a previous meeting that the pre-K students, I understand, they were being taught French, and then there was a prerequisite of French for the open enrollment. Other students coming aboard or wanting to enroll in the school, initially they would have to speak the French language, but now I think past action indicates that it's open enrollment and that French is not a prerequisite in grades K and or 1. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
I believe that includes grade 2 if we approve this today.
Yes, so now grade 2, but I'm just trying to understand the initial recommendation to defer, which was based on, you gave an explanation, so that it would allow more stakeholder engagement and an analysis of demand data. So you're saying
that we have the stakeholders and the demand to justify us moving forward.
So in a matter of a day or 2 to 3 days, there's a difference in opinion, obviously. So would they have to stay up? Why? I mean, when I received this on Friday, my packet, there is a recommendation to defer, and then today I received yesterday by email a recommendation to approve. So, I mean, to me, this is an immediate change.
And your question is, why is there a change?
Well, yes, you're saying the reason for deferring was because of the stakeholder and lack of stakeholder engagement, I would assume, and the analysis of demand data. So why the overnight change in recommendation, if you will?
Because we engaged with the community in a way that then changed that condition. We're satisfied, actually, after having had conversations in the community, that the idea that parents should be able to choose, I believe 25 parents should be able to choose this is perfectly fine and won't change anything for the negative. In fact, it creates good opportunities in New Orleans. And we've had conversations with stakeholders in the interim time. I regret the fact that there was this change. I regret that there's any late change, and you have my apologies. We intend not to operate that way. We'll try to get this process to a place where it's a little more lock solid. Just to go into this a little bit, board members, I think there's a requirement that these things be into us 30 days in advance. I think, frankly, we have probably been a little lax in terms of those timelines because we want to make sure that people's needs are accommodated. And this came in, there was, we took public comment, there was a bunch of comments expressed, and the initial reaction was, well, why don't we defer on this? I think when we really considered it and delved deeply into the community and talked to people, we realized, why would we make parents wait another month just because we need to do more engagement? So we did more engagement quickly, made that change. But these end up being very community-based, very complex transactions, and I regret the change. We need to give more lead time. My apologies, but I think this is the right thing to do.
Ms. Beebe, let me add some of my own personal experience on this particular issue, because I was concerned, too, about this school's potential with the second grade amendment to what you might call cannibalize the students at one of the other, or at the other French immersion schools, Audubon being one in particular. And I spoke to the people at Audubon quite a bit over the last few days, and I think maybe particularly because of the decision to have open enrollment in the second grade and not require the ability to speak French in order to enroll, but probably for other reasons too. The Audubon people decided not to come today and express their objections to this move. And I would say that, or I felt that the Audubon people would be very, very on top of this issue, and if their concerns were alleviated, then I thought that a good job probably was done in researching this issue. Do we have any other questions? Hearing none, do we have Ms. Spofey?
I've had people from that same school that you just referenced reach out to me, and so I think that this is something that we need to consider, but I'm not so sure that, I think that might be exactly what we need, and that's the fact that kids have great options to choose from, and so it's really hard for me, especially because our responsibilities with these schools in particular geographically are very far away from me, but to try to get to the heart of what the issues are. And it seems as though, for me, just like you said, that it's going to put Audubon in a situation, but I think that's the kind of situation that we're going for, is that our schools have to offer the highest quality of service in order for our students to continue to choose those schools. And so I'm hoping that my assessment of that issue is indeed accurate, and I do think that they have the stakeholders to warrant a second grade because of the type of response that's even been given to us in the last few days. So, and although I respect the concerns of the parents who have invested in Audubon and their children have been there, I also think that this goes back to the heart of the matter of, we're going to have such great choices for our kids that you get to choose between two great options as opposed to between getting out of a poor option, I guess, is the point that I'm trying to make. So.
Okay, let's go back to the motion. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item.
Next item is item D on page 18. The D'Arbonne Wood School is requesting to increase its enrollment from 323 to 560 and to add grades 9 through 12, beginning with grade 9 in the fall of 2012, with the addition of grades 10, 11, 12 in each subsequent year, and that's conditional upon satisfactory academic, organizational, and financial performance as determined by the State Superintendent of Education.
Mr. Guillaume?
I recommend that BESE approves this amendment as recommended by the department.
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Ms. Bradford.
Mr. Chairman,
We have
this is
Mr.
one I'd like to
Estu?
note that this is unchanged from what you have in your packet. That's correct. This recommendation has remained consistent. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Lee?
I'm sorry, I don't understand why the recommendation to defer.
This is approved.
Pardon me?
This is to approve, Mr. Lee.
Okay, we originally had a recommendation to approve, then I thought we had a recommendation to defer. Now we don't have a recommendation to defer?
I believe
It's all approved.
this has been approved. I think there was a time when we were considering deferring on this issue, but then I think since this material has been sent, it's been to approve. And part of the urgency on approving this is this school, which is currently dramatically outperforming other schools in its parish, has a facilities issue in that currently it's located in a building that it is leasing at cost that is an industrial facility, and they are eligible for a grant through the Department of Agriculture that they need to submit before the next BESE meeting, and that they need this approval in order to apply for that grant for enrollment reasons, and so no, unfortunately, we're not in a position to defer.
I don't have a problem with approving. I do have some concern with receiving a call yesterday to defer from your office. That's what confuses me. But I'm fine with approving.
You have my apologies, Mr. Lee. I don't believe that we made any or intended to make any calls about deferring, but
I received it, I know I received the information.
Okay.
I received it either through an email or a call, I'm not sure which.
Okay.
But that
Well,
could be-
my apologies for the confusion.
Superintendent White, we have a request from the staff for clarification. On the backup on this item, it says that the department is requesting approval for an additional 476 students, which if you added that to the 323 students that they have now would give you something in the range of 700 to 800. But the documents that were sent to us on Monday or yesterday said that you're requesting approval for 560 students. Is 560 the number?
560 is the number.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we have Ms. Beebe.
Yes, sir. I just want to have clarification here. I do recall a discussion, I think it was in August of 2011, the department either denied or I think the record was to delete this request based on the financial report, and I'm just asking, are those concerns, I'm assuming that they've been addressed and
They have been addressed. This Darbon Woods group has satisfied the terms of the audit.
Yeah, and as a member of the district, I have visited with them, and the school has just made tremendous progress with the new leadership that's been in place now, and they're committed. And the confusion had taken place relative to some of the specifics and some of the confusion, but it's all been addressed, and I certainly strongly recommend that we approve this motion.
Okay. Do we have any further comments? Do we have any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item.
Mr. Chair, is it possible to take E through G globally? They're all type 5 expansion. I don't know if you would consider that, or if everyone still wants to go through them individually. You can still ask questions on individual ones, but it might speed up the process.
Is that a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to consider items E through G globally and move for approval.
Okay. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Ms. Dasty, do we have any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion carries. We're now addressing the rest of the items altogether.
Well, you just passed on the motion. I think we're done.
We're done with
No, that was a motion to consider them
Oh,
all
that's
together. Do we have any questions about any of the remaining items?
Yes, sir.
Ms.
I have
Beebe?
Item G. Just clarification, this academy is asking to serve grades K to 2 and also in 2012 to add grades 6 and 7. Grades 4 and 5 will not be addressed by this school? I'm asking the question.
Do we have a staff member that would like to address that? Mr. Baxter?
Good morning. I'm going to introduce my colleague from the RSD, Adam Hoff.
Good morning, everyone. Ma'am, to address your question as to Lanyap, what's happening is that Lanyap is currently serving grades kindergarten and first and fifth and sixth. So essentially they began with kindergarten and fifth grade, and the second year they expanded to first grade as well and to sixth grade as well. So what this proposal is that next year, instead of expanding to kindergarten through second and fifth through seventh, they would instead serve one grade fewer next year. So it would be kindergarten through second and sixth and seventh grades. What this means is that every student who's currently at Lanyap Academies could stay next year, absolutely. They just simply won't intake a new fifth grade class.
But your grade configuration currently is what?
The current grade configuration for Lanyap Academies is kindergarten through first grade and fifth and sixth grade.
But that's unusual. I mean, why would you
Yes.
not include all grades K through 6?
This is quite common in the New Orleans charter context, and it's to allow schools to expand slowly and gradually, such that they're building their school culture and their academic model prior to expanding to a significant number of students.
Remember, ultimately ultimately they will have all the grades. All you're doing is just slowing down the progress. And the school, it's challenging to start both, in essence, middle school grades and elementary school grades at the same time. The school is just saying, allow us to grow more slowly by growing at the elementary grades rather than growing at the middle school grades. But ultimately, those second graders will be fifth graders. So it's not like they won't have a fifth grade. It's just that next year they're not taking a fifth grade cohort. Remember, we're managing a district in New Orleans, and we'll make sure there are fifth grade seats in other schools, and the RSD has already done that.
So what about the third and fourth grade? They don't have third and fourth grade.
They don't have them yet, but they will have them because their second graders will grow into third graders, and then they'll be fourth graders.
Okay. Because I'm just trying to get a clear understanding. Is it because that they don't want to face having the students take the I-LEAP or LEAP?
No. Many schools grow over time. Remember, these are schools that was started new. So rather than by starting with all 9 grade levels, they started with 2 grade levels. Well, that becomes 4 grade levels, and that becomes 6 grade levels, and then ultimately they have all 9. And that's because kids, grow from one year to the next. And so it's just a question of how fast do you want schools to grow. And this has been the case not just in New Orleans, but in schools across the state, that they take 1 grade level at a time when they start. Starting a school with all 9 grade levels, is really not a smart way to go if you don't have to.
But where's the accountability?
Well, they already have accountability at multiple levels. They have accountability really at any grade level that we test, and in fact every grade level here is tested, and they already have middle school grades, and their middle school grades are tested, and they receive a letter grade, and they're as accountable as any other school. All we're saying is, for this year, because we don't need them to from an enrollment perspective in New Orleans, they won't take a 5th grade.
Well, which assessment is administered? You've indicated that they are held accountable. They do take exams. What exams are administered?
The I-LEAP.
At which grade level?
At any grade level where it's applicable. This is a public school.
If you don't have the 3rd grade and LEAP 4th grade, that's my point.
But there aren't any children there in those grades to take the test, so we don't administer it.
But that's my point. You have this school, and you're being supportive of the kid. You're allowing the kids to go, and as you said, they're going to transition to these grades. I understand what you're saying, but as a parent of a child in K or 1st grade, I want to be assured that my child is experiencing success. And what is the measure of that success?
Every child takes the test. All we are proposing is that this year, the enrollment in the school not include 5th grade. It doesn't include a 3rd grade either. This is a school that next year will have kindergarten through 2, and will have grades 6 and 7. It will not include a 5th grade. It won't include a 4th grade. It won't include a 3rd grade. But it will include kids in those other grades, subject to state accountability. All we're saying is let's just slow down the growth of this school by a little bit.
Mr. Chairman, go back to my concern that we're allowing this school to operate, and we expect all other schools to be accountable.
How is it not accountable, Ms. Beebe, just so I understand?
Well, I'm trying to understand. They're not taking a test.
So no, every child.
4th grade, they may not meet that measure of effectiveness to be successful.
The state administers the exact same tests for these children as it does for any other school. And so, for instance, if you are in 6th grade, you take the state test. If you're in 5th grade, you take the state test. Now that we have 2nd grade kids taking tests, they'll take the test. All we're saying is there won't be 5th graders in the school next year. That's all.
Okay, Mr. Astu?
I think we've gone a bit off subject. The reason for this request has to do with facility constraints. Is that correct? Would you speak to that, please?
Yes, ma'am. Lagniappe is in a facility where they will not have enough room to serve next year kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, and 7th grade. They will not physically have enough space to serve all 6 grades. So the choice is, do they continue their obligation to serve all students they currently have? Yes, they do. And the way to do that is by next year, they'll continue to serve those students they already have, and they won't take in a new 5th grade class. Were they to take in a new 5th grade class as well, they would be overcrowded.
Okay, and this school is located in Tremay, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what percentage of children that live in that neighborhood attend your school?
Around 40%. I'm a representative of the Recovery School District, ma'am.
Okay. Then, is somebody here at the school? Has that been documented? I mean, is 40% of the kids from the neighborhood attend that school? Okay. So are you interested in remaining in that neighborhood? We have been doing this grow a grade model in the RSD schools for several years now. So this is not some kind of end run around accountability. This is a school that is serving a very challenged neighborhood and is trying to remain in that neighborhood and serve children and families that live in that neighborhood. So I support what you're doing. I think it is the right thing to do.
Ms. Hill?
I'm just trying to get a clear understanding. So the fifth grade students, they're going to have to transfer out?
There are no fifth grade students. So right now there are students in grades kindergarten and 1.
Correct.
Next year they become first graders and second graders in the school.
Okay.
Right now there are students in grades 5th and 6th.
Okay.
Next year they become 6th and 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
They stay in the school. All we're saying is that we're not going to enter a new crop of 5th grade students this next year. No one has to leave the school. Everyone who stays in the school takes the test. And the only reason is they're in a temporary facility. It's just too small to house the school if we continue to grow at that rate. And we're getting a long-term building as we are across the schools in New Orleans.
So what about the near future? If they can't have the capacity, hold the capacity now, would they be able to hold the capacity in the near future?
They will be, because as you know, we're building new buildings across New Orleans, and they will go into a new school building. Right now, they're in a temporary building. As with many schools in New Orleans, they're waiting to get into a longer-term building.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor.
We actually don't have a motion.
We have a motion to take all 3.
Yeah, but no motion to approve all 3.
We need a motion to approve all 3.
I'd like to make a motion to approve all 3.
Ms. Bopey, seconded by Mr. Romer. Okay. Do we have any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item.
The next item is on page 52, item 3.1, consideration of Recovery School District Early Head Start items.
I'm sorry. Mr. Superintendent?
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to update the board on the Delta Charter School in Faraday, which we had discussed at the last meeting, or 2 meetings ago in January, and I had said we would come back to the board with a decision. The question was raised. The board had approved the school for 2012 start, conditioned upon the superintendent approving of its school leader and their educational plan. Otherwise, it would be approved for 2013. We have worked with the school. We've interviewed the school leader and the curriculum director, and we've told them that it's our view that the plan is not yet there. We think they found an excellent school leader, but the plan is not yet there, and therefore that we have worked out an arrangement with them where we'll support them over the next year. They'll be able to develop their curriculum fully, their plans for intervention, their plans for students with disabilities, and that school will then start in the fall of 2013. And I want to thank them for their work with us, and I want to thank you for putting faith in us to come to the right decision for kids. I think this is the right decision.
Thank you, Superintendent. Okay, let's move on to the next item then.
That's 3.1 on page 52, and the department recommendation is to receive and approve the Early Head Start items.
We have a motion to receive and approve. Ms. Bradford, we have a second.
Second.
Ms. Dastuke, do we have any questions from the board?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Hill?
Okay, I have several questions in reference to the early childhood program, which is my passion. I'm quite sure Mr. Dobar knows. One of my main concerns in reference to the early childhood program, as far as I look at the documents and the contracts, you guys are trying to contract communities and schools in Greater New Orleans contract. So my question to you, Mr. Dobar, is do you guys have licensed clinical social workers on your staff currently?
Good morning, Patrick Dobar, committee member, superintendent of Recovery School District. I'll ask Dr. Fran Williams to come to make certain that we address it properly. whether we have licensed clinical social workers on our staff for the early childhood program?
No, at the RSD?
Yes.
Overall, okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, we do, yes.
Okay, because according to the document, you guys are requesting for $250,000 for the communities and schools in Greater New Orleans. Being a social worker and understanding the profession as well and only serving 124 students, I'm trying to figure out why do you need a contract of $250,000 to service 124 students when you have regular, traditional public schools that have social workers, that is one social worker every 3 schools, meaning that they have a caseload over 124 students.
Let me just back up and, Fran Williams, Early Childhood Director for the Recovery School District, and I appreciate your question, Ms. Hill. Let me just provide a little bit of background about what the social workers in our program are doing. So our Early Head Start grant serves 124 infants and toddlers, but the parents of those students, those infants and toddlers are students in our high schools. So as a director, the way that I like to think of it is to almost double that number, because the infants and toddlers that we serve are our students, and they're in child care centers in the communities, but for every infant or toddler we have almost a one-to-one correspondence, because there are a few adult parents in the program, but almost a one-to-one correspondence of high school students. So you really have to double that number, because the program provides a great deal of support and case management for both the children, the infants and toddlers, and their student parents. So the way that we design the program requires a great deal of case management in our high schools, and we're serving 4 high schools. So the contract with communities and schools provides 3 licensed social workers along with 3 AmeriCorps members, and those 6 individuals support those parents in the high schools, as well as working with the infants and toddlers who are distributed through the child care centers in the city. And of course, the Recovery School District does have highly qualified licensed social workers, but we do appreciate that those wonderful professionals have a great deal of responsibilities already, and that this program would have added additional responsibilities to those social workers that are already in the schools and in our district. And that's why this relationship with communities and schools is important to us.
Okay, so how many social workers do you have currently?
In our working for our Early Head Start program, the only social workers that we have employed are those through the communities and schools. So
No,
that's
overall with RSD.
I can't speak for the entire Recovery School District, as I'm just the director.
We'll
for
get
Early
that to you, and I
Childhood.
just want to ask Ms. Hill, we will get you the exact numbers that we have. But what you see is that the students that are benefiting from this, not only the little ones, but the parents as well. These are our hardest to serve kids, as you're fully aware, in our direct run schools. And to Dr. Williams and her creativity and understanding that this grant is an opportunity not to basically neglect students as far as giving them the resources that they deserve, but really using this grant as an opportunity to do a ratio that would be best in an ideal situation. And so therefore, instead of taking away from resources that we currently have in RSD, our social workers, as she mentioned, doing other things, having large caseloads, what this does is to give a great ratio to our hardest to serve kids, with some help and intervention that's going to really allow not only them but their children that they're working with to really benefit from it. And so, I really applaud what she's done as far as how the grant was actualized. And we want to definitely do more than 124 kids. We actually have some charters who would like to be involved with it. But I think it's for us to model that if funds are available and resources are available, this is the way to do it, to make certain that you're really giving children a chance to succeed, not only children that are in our high schools, but also their young ones that are in this program.
Well, I guess my problem, I'm just trying to understand, as far as Ms. Williams, you said that you have 3 licensed clinical social workers, and then you're going to have 3, of course, case managers.
No, it's 3 total, 3 licensed social workers through this contract.
Correct.
And then we have additionally 3 AmeriCorps members. They're not licensed social workers, but they do things with the students such as tutoring and other support to help them with their academic achievement.
Well, I guess the point that I'm trying to make, because if you look at, even if we double the number to 248 students, that means that social worker will have over 115 students as far as the student and the parent, because you say you're doubling the number, correct? Am I correct, Ms. Williams?
Conceptually, yes, because those are the number of students that we're working with, the infant and toddler and the parents.
And I guess the reason why I'm asking this question is because when we look at the budget and when we're looking at other districts being cut as far as school districts, I'm just looking at trying to save costs. And I understand that even as a social worker, we do have high caseloads, and we have to be effective in what we're doing and working with our children. However, trying to service 124 students at $250,000 with only 3 social workers, I think I have a problem with that, because even on my caseload that I have currently, I mean, I have more than I can bear, but I'm still able to be effective to work with that student, that parent, that teacher, and administrator at the school. So I was trying to figure out how you guys can cut costs with the social workers that you already have in your office, even though, or maybe bring in or hire licensed clinical social workers instead of contracting out, actually interviewing for licensed clinical social workers to come and be on the staff.
We have a lot of flexibility, and I'll take your recommendations under advisement, and I definitely appreciate your input.
Good. Mr. Lee?
I had the opportunity to visit with somebody, I'm not sure, with a telephone conference.
Yes, that was myself and our executive director of policy.
About this program, and I want to commend you for what I think is a well-defined program. I want to commend you for addressing the needs of these early age children. And I think this early Head Start program is a movement in the right direction, particularly in the New Orleans area. So
Thank you, Mr.
I appreciate your effort.
Thank you.
I have another question.
Ms. Hill?
Yes. Also, I guess if you guys will be able to address this question. In the school, in the handbook, section 3.1, and in the administrative and finance handbook, section 2.6, both refer to the RSD Early Head Start program. Please explain how they both tie in together with the contracts that is currently being proposed to us. So I guess, just to give you a clear understanding, for
Ms.
example...
Hill, what page are you on? Just so we can follow along with you.
Is it on the next item, Ms. Hill? The handbook is on the next item.
Are you in the handbook?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
3.1, which we're currently on right now.
What page is it?
52.
There are 2 items, a quarterly report and the handbook. You're in the handbook?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
On page 52.
Okay, what's your question?
So I guess as I look at the contracts, as I did my own research, I see a lot of duplicating services. And when I say duplicating services, that we already have an administrative team, but then we're contracting out other agencies to come in to do some of the same exact work that we have people in RSD currently doing with the Early Head Start program.
Could you provide another example just so that I can address your question? And are you referencing duplication outside of the communities and schools contract that you already referred to? I just want to make sure that I have a good understanding of what your concerns are.
No, I'm referring to the oversight contracts that you guys have.
Oversight contracts.
As far as oversight, as far as doing the research, the evaluation, why aren't we trying to have those individuals that are currently in RSD take on those responsibilities?
Well, let me just refer to, there are 2 Early Head Start contracts that will be on the Budget and Finance Committee today. Mm-hmm. Then there are several other contracts that are for LA4, and I just want to make sure that the board has an appreciation that that is a completely different program. So the only 2 contracts that I'm aware of right now are the one that are on the agenda today are the CIS contract, which we've already discussed, which was for case management, and then there is another contract for Early Childhood and Family Learning Foundation. And those 2 contracts, in my opinion, are not a duplication of services at all. I do appreciate your position regarding the social workers. ECFLF is a foundation that is specifically devoted to early childhood, and through that contract we have a consultant who is a former Early Head Start director. That level of expertise is not one that we have in the Recovery School District, because this type of grant is the first time that we've ever had an Early Head Start grant. And so that is a very important relationship that we have, because I'm sure that you appreciate the level of federal oversight in this program and the specifics to being compliant for this federal grant. So it is important to have someone working with us who has that level of expertise. Were there other contracts that you were concerned about?
When we talk about contracts, that might be better addressed during the Administrative and Finance Committee. Okay, Mr.
I was just going to offer that I know that Superintendent Dobard and his team would be happy to provide a briefing of detailed issues to any board member that's interested in how we manage the program day to day, and Dr. Williams could certainly be involved in that, as I know this is a motion to receive and approve.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item.
The next item is item 3.2 on page 145, consideration of revisions to the Recovery School District Personnel Handbook, and the recommendation is to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Ms. Dasty, we have a second. Ms. Bradford, do we have any questions on this item? Hearing none, do we have any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion carries. Does that conclude our agenda?
That concludes the agenda.
It does. Thank you.